There's something in the tunnel. There's something in the tunnel near my house. I've never seen it, but I can feel it. I remember spending time down there as a child. The drain ditch that runs along the road and through the tunnel was a favorite place of mine. I've never gone inside it, though. I've looked but never found the courage to go in. Once I brought a flashlight and pointed it into the darkness inside of the tunnel. I saw nothing. Well, I guess it would be more accurate to say I saw the absence of something. Light. The light I pointed down the tunnel just disappeared. It hit a point about halfway down the tunnel and just vanished. I don't know what stopped the light, but whatever it was, it seemed to be like a vacuum to the light, drawing it inside. I threw a rock inside the tunnel once. I looked right down the entire length of the dimness, and I threw as hard as I could. I didn't hear a sound. A boy I knew disappeared when I was about 10. He went out on his bike and was never seen again. They found his bike in the drainage ditch near the tunnel, but nothing else. The case is still open. Some neighborhood pets also went missing. Dogs and cats, and even a horse from the stables down the road. No one considered where they might have gone. I knew, though. The tunnel took them. There's a guy at school who picks on me. Trevor. He's on the football team, and his girlfriend is the most popular girl in school. And of course, he got some extra muscle and height than the rest of us did. There are always people like that. I hate it. I tried out for the football team last year, but I didn't make it. That's when the bullying started. They didn't have the right size of helmet for me, so I couldn't see very well, and I ran into the goalpost. Trevor pointed and laughed, and then everyone else did. Since then, he and the rest of the team call me names and pretend like they're me running into the pole. This has made it hard to keep friends and to get to know any girls at school either. Most of the time, I just put my head down and try to ignore the taunts as I walk down the hall. I wish Trevor had been the boy who disappeared. Then maybe I'd have some sort of life at school. Dad tells me not to worry about it and to just ignore them. I doubt he was ever bullied in school, though. I told the vice principal this, but he just told me to try and get along with him. They're too scared about lawsuits to do anything about it. I don't know what to do. Today I went to the tunnel. I don't know exactly what I was doing. I just started walking. No one seemed to notice as I left. I went down the drainage ditch and stood right in front of the entrance. Even on the brightest day, you can't see all the way to the end. The light just seems to stop about halfway. Today, strangely, I didn't feel scared, so I started walking down the tunnel. I heard the scrape of my shoes and the water dripping off the ceiling in a constant echo around me. I'm not sure why, but I stopped at one point. I couldn't see anything except blackness. After my eyes adjusted a little, I noticed a large hole in the wall of the tunnel, just as black as everything else. I stood there for a long time. I heard a voice now. It started as a low hum that built into a question.
Why did you come?
A low and hissing voice asked me. At first I didn't say anything. Then I managed, I don't know. Silence. Then I heard,
What do you wish?
Without thinking, my mouth just spoke. I want Trevor to go away. A kind of low laugh started, and then it said,
Bring him to me.
I turned and went back home. For some reason, none of this felt strange or out of place to me. The next day at school, I talked to Trevor. He made the same joke about me that he always does, but then I challenged him. I told him that he wasn't tough like he thinks. I told him to meet me in front of the drainage ditch tunnel at 4 o'clock today, Then we'd see just how tough he was. He didn't even flinch. He just boasted loudly that he'd make a fool out of me, and I just smiled. After school, I went home first and watched out of my window until I saw Trevor outside the tunnel entrance. As I reached where Trevor was standing, he put up his fist like he thought I had challenged him to a fight. I laughed and said that I had something better in mind. I told him that if he considered himself to be the toughest guy in school, that he would walk the entire length of the tunnel all the way to the end. He just gave me a sarcastic look and stuck his chest out and said, "No problem." I watched as Trevor started down the tunnel. I felt excited for some reason, like before you open a present. Trevor had gotten almost to the hole I found yesterday when he stopped. He yelled at me and asked me if I was scared of the tunnel. I smiled and started down the tunnel as well. Trevor just stood there as I got closer. When I got to where Trevor was, I wondered if he could see the smile on my face in all the darkness. Trevor was about to turn and start down the tunnel again when he stopped. He turned and looked at me with the most terrified look that I had ever seen. He gasped and his body started to rise off the ground. Trevor started to drift back towards the hole behind him when his bones started snapping. He let out an awful sound as if the air had been sucked out of his lungs and his body started to contort in ways that it shouldn't have been able to. His arms were yanked backwards and joints popped. Then his legs folded backwards and cracked until his feet were on either side of his head. Trevor had been wadded up like a piece of notebook paper. This should have horrified me, but it didn't. Trevor's eyes looked down at me. A mix of surprise and terror could be seen. Then he was pulled back into the abyss behind him. I was smiling the whole way back home. The next day at school, everyone was talking about Trevor. Since no one was around when I had challenged him yesterday, nobody asked me anything. This was turning out to be a great day. During class, I replayed last night in my head over and over. Seeing Trevor being crushed in midair gave me a kind of satisfaction that I had never known. By the end of the day, my face hurt from all the smiling I had been doing. After dinner, I went up to my room and I opened my window to look out at the tunnel. I could feel it pulse. I could hear it breathe. A smile creased the corner of my mouth as I got out my notebook and the list of names I had made today.